Hello everyone, this is AndresRestart, and today we are talking about how I believe we just got a very reliable and interesting rumor regarding the future of the Luigi's Mansion series. This ties into the Nintendo Cinematic Universe, but I also think this relates to Luigi's Mansion 4. We've been theorizing it for some time. Is it coming soon, around the corner, perhaps as part of the closing lineup for this year? I think there's a really good chance, and so we're going to be diving into all of that today. But before going forward, let me remind you all I have this goal, so if you find yourself enjoying my videos, I would very much appreciate your support, subscribing if you haven't already. So this new exciting rumor is coming from Special Nick. We've talked about Special Nick a lot. Special Nick has shown to have very strong sources. He's talked about things he's heard in the past that have all come to fruition, such as the launch pricing and bundling and timing of the Nintendo Switch 2 alongside Mario Kart World, such as the Mario Galaxy 2 remaster we got announced in the previous September Direct to help celebrate Mario's 40th anniversary and promote the Mario Galaxy movie, and we had even heard details about Metroid Prime 4 before we had even seen any gameplay of it. All these things we've heard from Special Nick in the past. He's talked about some recent things regarding the Ocarina of Time remake, how this is apparently a collaborative effort both in-house and bringing in a partner to assist, and also supposedly how it has a big budget. We'll see what materializes from that, but he was hearing about these things before even Nate the Hate was reporting on it. Of course, we've been theorizing about the Ocarina of Time remake for years. There's been evidence for it, but you want to know what also there's been evidence for? Luigi's Mansion. The future of the Luigi's Mansion series, there have been things pointing towards some big things to come in the future for that. And so that brings us to this latest rumor from Special Nick. The global box office had reported Super Mario Galaxy movie has crossed the $400 million mark at the global box office after only 6 days of release. It's now tracking to hit $750 million this coming weekend. And those are incredible numbers. The Mario Galaxy movie is doing really well. The story is honestly very similar to what happened 3 years ago. Yeah, critics didn't like it, but the audience scores, the general public, most people, and I mean like a significant majority of people, really liked the first movie and this one, and that led to historic sales, and we're seeing something very similar here with the Mario Galaxy movie. The Mario movies have proven to be extremely successful. And so, Special Nick replied or reposted this news from Global Box Office and said, "The success of the Mario movies must be having quite the impact within Nintendo. A lot of stuff in the works from what I'm hearing. I can't talk about it all just yet, but as an example, they are looking at pitching a Luigi's Mansion movie." So as I said earlier, I do think there's an angle here to discuss regarding Luigi's Mansion 4. We'll be getting into that, but let's first focus on this movie situation here. So considering what we saw in the Mario Galaxy movie, there are definitely things in the movie, and I'm not going to be spoiling major events, but there are definitely things in the movie that do seem to set up the possibility of the next big Mario Universe movie having to do with Luigi. Now, I would expect that before we see this Luigi's Mansion movie, if that indeed is greenlit, we're going to see the Donkey Kong movie first, because we've already seen Nintendo and Universal file for an official copyright regarding a Donkey Kong motion picture. And we're getting the live-action Zelda movie next year, so this could be still a few years away. Now, that's operating on the assumption we're going to be seeing one Nintendo movie per year. There's no guarantee of that. It may end up being less frequent or more frequent. We'll see. Perhaps as Nintendo gains more confidence and starts getting different studios and partnerships together to put out more movies, we'll start to see a little bit more regularity of these different Nintendo Cinematic Universe kinds of movies. And if Special Nick is only hearing now about pitching Luigi's Mansion movie, I think that would suggest that they are still in the planning process. I will say, after having watched the Mario Galaxy movie and considering what we saw in the first Mario movie, there were a lot of things in the first Mario movie that clearly set things up for the Galaxy movie, such as the Peach backstory. It really felt like they kind of were planning for some time to have the Galaxy movie follow up the Mario movie. Now, what I will say though, is that perhaps they already had some general plans on what they wanted to do next with the characters, but they perhaps hadn't settled completely on the theme. And so I'm considering this angle here because perhaps A Luigi's Mansion film is what's next for this specific Mario universe continuity. And right now they're trying to pinpoint exactly the direction they're going to go, but there are certain things that they definitely want to move forward with regarding the characters. Like, we know Luigi is also looking for a love interest here, and the post-credits for the Mario Galaxy movie could give us a hint towards that. Now, that stuff doesn't necessarily strongly say that we're going to get a Luigi's Mansion movie. It could perhaps suggest the opposite, but considering how the first two Mario movies have been handled, it may be an amalgamation of different Nintendo Mario kinds of games, and so they could be tying in different ideas here into one movie. So perhaps Luigi's Mansion could be like the big focus for this next movie, but they still could be tying in other elements as well to tie in the broader Mario universe. And considering how they left things off with Bowser, I definitely could see perhaps a connection to King Boo in the next big movie. And also, the brush of Bowser Jr., based off what we've seen from Mario Sunshine and Luigi's Mansion, we have plenty of reason to believe that there's a connection there to Professor Egad, and there's even a reference to Luigi's Mansion that might be more of a reference here, suggesting that there are already poltergeists out in the wild, which then may be helping to further set up things for a Luigi's Mansion movie. And just looking at the intro for Luigi's Mansion 3, how they visit a hotel as a family or a group of friends on a vacation, they could set things up in an extremely similar way for a Luigi's Mansion movie. Like, perhaps Luigi could get the invitation, but Mario, Yoshi, Toad, Peach, perhaps even Rosalina could all join together on this fun trip to this mysterious invitation to a mansion or a hotel of some kind. I think there's definitely a lot of potential there. But as I mentioned earlier, there's also the possibility that maybe the Luigi's Mansion movie is its own separate thing away from the Super Mario movie, kind of like what we're expecting for Donkey Kong here. And so it's possible they could be looking at events in the Mario Galaxy movie and what that will lead to, and that's not necessarily leading to a Luigi's Mansion movie, and the Luigi's Mansion movie might be separate. But the more I talk it out, the more I'm kind of feeling like maybe they should just make the next Mario movie a Luigi's Mansion movie. How they figure out the branding of that, the titling, maybe it could be something like Luigi's Mansion, a Super Mario Bros. Movie. Something like that I think could work really well, and would also be a great test to see if other Nintendo characters can see strong levels of popularity like the Mario movies. But how might this tie into the Luigi's Mansion game series? Well, as we've talked about in the past, the Mario movies have shown to boost sales for Mario games. We've also seen Nintendo use the Mario movies to cross-promote different Nintendo IP, Donkey Kong, Star Fox, and it always seems like there's a game involved as well. Donkey Kong Bonanza, we're expecting a Star Fox game announcement soon, we'll see what happens. And so if they're working on Luigi's Mansion movie, you gotta bet a Luigi's Mansion game has to be coming soon. Now, some might think that because of this, that a Luigi's Mansion game might be coming later, but I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think the Luigi's Mansion game could be coming first. If the game exists, when the movie comes out, it's still going to enjoy that popularity boost, and perhaps they can even be working on a follow-up to that once this movie's ready in a couple years. Luigi's already becoming a more popular character by being involved with the Mario movies, so Nintendo doesn't necessarily need to wait until the Luigi's Mansion movie to boost the popularity for Luigi. That's already been happening, and Luigi's Mansion 3 was already an extreme success. Luigi's Mansion 3 sold 14.25 million copies for Switch 1, placing it in the top 20 best-selling games on the platform, and so there's been momentum for the Luigi's Mansion series already. Luigi's Mansion 4 could perhaps put the series in that 20 million category after we've seen the popularity boosts from these Mario movies here. And if that game's already out a couple years from now when the Luigi's Mansion movie comes out, theoretically here, then that could further boost sales, helping to keep Luigi's Mansion relevant for a longer period of time. Most of these games that do sell in the 10 plus, 20 million plus range is because they have that evergreen status where they continue to sell for a longer period of time. Like, we look at Donkey Kong Bonanza. I do think that Donkey Kong Bonanza is a new beginning for 3D Donkey Kong, and there will be another in a reasonable amount of time. I'm not saying extremely soon, but a reasonable amount of time. But before that, I imagine we get the Donkey Kong movie, and when that Donkey Kong movie comes around, what do you think people are going to be more inspired to play? Donkey Kong Bonanza, which will then help to further improve its sales, helping to keep its evergreen status. I think the same could apply for Luigi's Mansion 4 thing here. Which brings me to this next point. Yeah, I do think Luigi's Mansion 4 is coming soon. I've been talking about it. I was theorizing it could come out as soon as last year. And the reason why I was theorizing that is because you look at the history of projects from Next Level Games, the Luigi's Mansion series developer, they have come out with a game very consistently every 3 years, over the last few generations. So there was a clear pattern indicating that they were due for a game last year. Now, that has not happened. There is no guarantee it would happen. Development is fluid, things can change and move around, and there was never any promises that Next Level Games would come out with a game every 3 years. That's just how it shook out over the last handful of generations, but what it does suggest is that they likely are still very close. And actually, shoutouts to Khalid, who has been keeping me up to date on the different hirings at Next Level Games over the last year or so. And as you see here, they've been hiring a lot lately over the last 12 plus months. And what this suggests, this is actually a ramping up of their hiring, of their recruitment. This suggests a transition. Transitioning perhaps because they're wrapping up a project they've already been working on for the last few years. Now, there's no guarantee that the next project from Next Level Games is going to be a Luigi's Mansion title. It's possible it's something else, but their prior title was Mario Strikers. And their most successful series is Luigi's Mansion, and you would think you would want to get that out fairly early on into a new generation to enjoy even greater success. So from a business planning perspective, you would think they would have strongly considered making Luigi's Mansion 4 next. Some people have theorized that maybe Next Level Games is the developer behind Star Fox, and I suppose that's a possibility. I think Next Level Games can make a lot of really good games, so with the right help, I do think they could also make a good Star Fox game. I don't want to rule that out, but I haven't noticed any strong evidence leaning towards that, just simply the connection of Next Level Games should be nearly done, and supposedly we have a big Nintendo game that's going to get announced really soon, Star Fox. And perhaps why some people have been jumping to this idea even more so is because there's been this narrative going around from the latest reports of both Ocarina of Time Remake and Star Fox for Switch 2 that Nintendo's entire, keyword, entire 2026 lineup has been leaked. And I'm actually taking great issue with this narrative because this keyword that a lot of people have been using, entire, is not accurate, at least based off the reported information. So this reported information that where things really started circulating here came from the Nate the Hate podcast, and if you actually listen to the words that Nate the Hate said, he never indicated he was leaking the entire lineup. In the grand scheme of things, the only two big things he leaked were Star Fox and Ocarina of Time Remake. Now, there's some mention of different Switch 2 editions, which were already rumored and theorized already, but all these different things he talked about were all for the summer, except for Ocarina of Time Remake. He makes mention of that there could and should be more. And last I checked, summer isn't the rest of the year. So, yeah, there's still more that should be coming out if we assume everything we heard from Nate the Hate's podcast is still coming to fruition. And also, that should not really come as much of a shock because guess what? You look at the holiday seasons for pretty much every Nintendo year, they have a handful of titles coming out in that 2 to 3 month period of time. In other words, more than just one game per month. So with reports suggesting that both Ocarina of Time Remake and the Dust Bloods will be coming out post-summer, like fall season or holiday season, those two are big, but I do think they need a little bit more. What would be a great little bit more? A Luigi's Mansion 4. If 3D Mario's not ready for this year, that lineup of the Dust Bloods, Ocarina of Time Remake, and Luigi's Mansion 4 would be extremely well-rounded, and that would be a very strong Mario Universe-centric game to get out post Mario Galaxy movie, which would then probably lead to greater sales as well. Nintendo likely wants to have some kind of big Mario Universe title to follow the Mario Galaxy movie. Now, some people might argue, well, maybe that's the Star Fox thing because Star Fox was in the Mario movie. I'd argue that there could be more than just one here, because when we're talking about the Mario movies becoming these avenues to expand the Nintendo Cinematic Universe, there's going to be a lot of cross-promotional opportunities here for different Nintendo IP. And just a reminder, last October, Nash Weedle did say he heard that Luigi's Mansion 4 is in development. How far into development, we'll see, but we do believe Next Level Games is nearly complete here. So either they're just starting on Luigi's Mansion 4 according to this rumor, or it's nearly done. And actually, we did hear from Special Nick as well a few months ago on something that may also be hinting at Luigi's Mansion 4 coming out really soon.
What would this rumor mill update for Amiibos be about?
There's only certain things I can say, that's all.
Yeah, just intimating there's going to be many more.
Yes, they are planning on doing a lot more Amiibos. I do have a couple of names of Amiibos.
Like a lot more, like a lot more, right?
Yeah,
a shocking amount more.
Like a bigger number than you're probably thinking, listener.
Yes. I know, I do have a list of a few different characters here, but I don't think I'm allowed to say them all. But I will say one. Obviously some Zelda ones here, but there is one that I reckon might interest Jeff, Luigi, with Poltergeist 3000.
Sure. Yeah, okay. That Luigi's Mansion 4 has got to be happening.
And so from this, Nick talks about how he's heard about a lot of Amiibo, and interestingly, there are names here that he cannot mention. I speculate that maybe he was seeing something about Star Fox Amiibo, which would make a lot of sense, and that would be something that he would not be able to talk about at this point in time. But he also heard about Zelda Amiibo, and we know about the 40th anniversary, and now we're hearing about the Ocarina of Time remake supposedly coming out this year, but also a Luigi's Mansion Amiibo. And if a Luigi's Mansion Amiibo is coming out later this year, what do you think that suggests? A Luigi's Mansion game. And so, yes, I think Luigi's Mansion 4 is coming soon. Maybe these Amiibo aren't quite ready for this year, maybe it comes out next year, maybe we have to somehow wait for Luigi's Mansion 4 in 2027, but I do think the indication here is that Luigi's Mansion 4 is not very far off, and if 3D Mario's not going to be ready this year, Luigi's Mansion 4 makes even more sense. Of course, assuming it's ready, but considering the history of Next Level game releases, they should be pretty close to done. And so the future is looking bright for Luigi and his exploration of different mansions and such in both video games and movies. Based off this rumor, which I consider to be reliable, but still take it with a grain of salt because it's not confirmed until, of course, it's confirmed. But what do you all think? Let me know in the comments below. This is AndresRestart. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I will see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.